Alright, turtle we found today has a fracture going all the way from his opening where his head comes out all the way back, and it tees off into a section here. Now, I'm no veterinarian, but I'm thinking from the videos that I've watched on YouTube and what we know about turtles that we can just epoxy this back together and the shell will fuse naturally. And after I put the epoxy on, I'm going to wrap him in some tape to make sure that that joint doesn't flex. None of the research that we've done did they ever say to put any type of antiseptic or anything like that on the turtle. As you can see, I broke out my hydrogen peroxide, my tinctured iodine, Neosporin, and all that good stuff. But what we're going to do is simply epoxy his shell back together on these fractured points, and then I'm going to wrap him with some gauze tape to make sure that that fracture doesn't move, and so the epoxy will seal. Actually, this is some pretty thick epoxy, so I'm just going to dump it on there and kind of smear it. Trying not to get too close to the head because the fracture starts actually right at this poor little guy's opening to where his head comes out. I'm sure that there's a technical term for it, but I don't know.
Careful, baby.
Don't worry, little guy, we're gonna get you.
Oh, you know what? I bought the wrong damn stuff.
Stop it. Taking the cotton off the end of this cotton swab, I'm just going to use the hard plastic shank because this epoxy I'm using seems to want to stick to the cotton. Maybe this will work a little bit better. After I've removed all the cotton off that, let's see if we can kind of dip this around here to where it'll stick. This guy did have a little bit of a contusion sticking out of the shell here right above his head, and what I did to take care of that, it was a big lump of skin. I found him in an ant bed and he was literally being eaten alive. And what I did with that little piece that was sticking out is I took a razor blade and heated it up and cauterized it as I cut it off. Now that's probably unorthodox, but we did it. Cauterized the wound. We noticed that he had a slight little hemorrhage here where he was bleeding from. So we dry off that blood right there. I'm not going to epoxy that because I don't want any pressure to build up underneath his shell and possibly constrict his lungs or any type of movement, natural movement that he has. So looks like the epoxy's on there pretty well. Now I'm just going to tape around him to make sure that his shell's held together and it doesn't flex too bad. Alright, so we have the epoxy in place now. And I'm going to try my best to wrap this guy to where he can't spread apart. Now, I am no veterinarian. Please keep this in mind. So I wouldn't try this at home. I would, if you have the money to, which I don't, take his ass to a veterinarian. So what I'm using basically is gauze tape. You know, just regular medical gauze tape. I'm going to give him a couple good wraps. Snug, but not too tight, because he does require a little bit of flexibility as far as the bottom part goes. Also, another thing, as we found out, is that this part of his shell is actually fractured too. I only want to hold him upside down for a second because turtles can't breathe upside down. It actually right there, it's broke as well. So I'm coming across this chest cavity and make one more wrap. And see, that's going to be enough flexibility for his whole front end to come out, his head and his 2 legs. But at the same time, it's going to keep his shell together to where it doesn't flex where it shouldn't. Let's hope this works and this little guy will be fixed in a few weeks. We'll get back to you on that.
That's showing how much you love him.
Oh, his front's skinned up too. His mouth.
I don't see how people can run over these things. They're such beautiful creatures.
They don't do it on purpose.
I think this one was done on purpose, bro. He was on the side of the road, like some way, right over there in front of Chris's house.
Poor guy.
Clean all this gunk away from him.
Get one of them syringes and get some water and clean them up.
He was full of ants, dude. I took all the ants off him and I put him down. Came back 2 minutes later and picked him up, and there's another better ants on him. So they were all inside of eating from the inside out alive. So
Hopefully they didn't do enough damage to kill them.
yeah, hopefully it didn't get any infections in there. The reptile guy said not to put any water in there either, because it could possibly lead to infection. He also said nothing about using hydrogen peroxide, tinctured iodine, methylate, or the famous Neosporin, the things that we use on first aid. Apparently reptiles are different. Cold-blooded animals probably work different. In fact, they're probably less prone to bacterial infection due to the fact that they don't hold their own body heat. That would be my guess. But I'm no scientist. Our little turtle terrarium that we created, gathering information off the internet. What we've done here is put a UV light in, pretty much a grow light, like you would use in growing pot in your closet or something like that. So the turtle gets plenty of vitamin D. We put him in a closed basket with a towel. As you can see, there's no water in there. We don't want any water to seep inside and get inside the turtle shell, possibly causing infection. So we're going to dry dock him tonight. I'm going to keep this towel over him so that way it holds in the heat, and also it makes the turtle feel more comfortable with his surroundings, and possibly he may eat. Also, we are nothing but amateurs here. We don't really know what we're doing, so any feedback whatsoever would be greatly appreciated. We thanks for your view, and check back with us in a couple weeks and we'll let you know how the turtle's doing. Thank you for watching.